Good morning. Good morning. Okay, so the beautiful thing is that we're on because of technology, and the also lovely complicated thing is that technology sometimes gives us a couple hiccups. So we're starting a few minutes late today, but we're super happy that you're all here, and thank you very much to our panel. My name is Fritzi Ortiz with Ticor Title, and I will be your host today. So usually I like to start with a little information about the market or what's going on today. So this is the latest as of yesterday. In our local area here, we had active inventory on our local MLS for 6,918 properties. Under contract were 1,285, and sold listings were 914. So that's as of yesterday. Does that probably sounds normal to you guys, right? I feel like the market's going really quite well, surprisingly, for everything that's going on in the world today, but that's a little info about our market. And then, as we know, I also like to touch base on what's happening in Nevada with this lovely crisis and how we're all handling it. So latest information for the state of Nevada is that we have closed bars, pubs, taverns, distilleries, breweries, and wineries that do not serve food in certain counties. So it didn't affect the whole state, but it surely affected certain counties, including our lovely Clark County. That's made a big difference in our local market. And I'm curious, how are you seeing that out there, Carl? Like, has that affected you at all? Did you see a big change, or were you not going out that much?
It's odd. I'm in just habits of getting food as I go. I'm not really in a restaurant. We order out. Even if it is a restaurant, we're picking it up and going. Just change of habits. But I don't think there's been a big significant change in a month. There hasn't COVID tests, right? But other than that, I mean, I don't see a big difference. What's disappointing is that didn't all of you think by summer that, hey, we'd be peaking, we'd be coming down, and we'd see light at the end of the tunnel, and it just doesn't feel that way. That's what's frustrating. So.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I definitely thought that there was going to be a little sunshine in the summer, and we get plenty of sunshine, but not in our day-to-day world. The masks are intense. There's companies getting fined all over the place. So it is what we have to mandate these days, and we are required to wear them. So there's folks going out and getting fines, and at some point people lose licenses and things like that if it gets to an extreme. So we do have to mind that and hope that the situation gets better as we get our state out of the red zone. We like to be there sometimes, but one of the big things too that Governor Sisolak spoke of is that we need, and this has been a problem for a long time, or something that we strive for and need to get better at, is having other industries. So we're not 100% focused or so heavily focused on tourism, because when these things hit, we take a dive. We're extreme in all ends of it. We do really, really well, and we're always at the top when things are going great, but we also, when things don't go great, we also go back to the bottom again. So it's kind of a little roller coaster here in Las Vegas, but I hope to see some different industries coming in and kind of helping our economy as a whole. So anywho, for those of you who don't know our panel today, we have myself, Fritzi Ortiz with Ticor Title, and Mr. Carl Bassett. Carl is from Homevestors. We've actually worked together for a long time, and we have always typically done this in the past. It's going to start to take over that we're doing it Zoom versus live, but we did this event live, and we would have folks come in, both investors and realtors, and bring in either your consumers or just you represent them when you came to the class. And it was more focused on only the investment side of it. We were teaching folks kind of how to do investing if you wanted to get into it, and that if you don't have an investor that you represent, you are able to represent Carl. I'll let Carl dig into that here in a few minutes, but I'm also going to introduce Mr. Matt Garnes, who's here with us today, and he is with Nova Home Loans. So we want to give you an idea of what's happening in the market, and Matt's going to give us a little insight on the lending. And today, thank you for being here, Matt. So
thank you
Carl,
very much. My pleasure.
Absolutely. Carl, thank you. Thank you again, and give us a little input on what you can do for agents, and then we'll jump into the program a little bit, and we'll let Matt talk about financing as well.
All right, so I'm not a realtor, so anyone could represent me. When I say that, there are agents out there that contact us daily for, hey, would you like to write an offer on this property? Hey, I've got this listing. Would you like to write an offer? So you would be representing me. I'm not competition to you, right? And the concept is that I have, we write offers. So the We Buy Ugly Houses brand, the caveman sign, etc. around town is us. And so we'll buy any type of house. Generally speaking, we're flipping it, right? We're remodeling it. Other times we're keeping it as a rental property. And it's a big national company. It's actually the largest buyer. It's bigger than, it's not bigger money wise than Blackstone ever was, but I mean, volume wise of buys, it's the largest buyer in the country. And so, but it's franchised. And so I own that territory right here in Las Vegas and represent the brand here. But overall, you're not dealing with some big corporation. It's just us locally. And we analyze the deal, look at it and say, yeah, we'll write an offer. Here's our number. And then you could submit that offer for us, or tell your client, hey, the number's this. It works great. If it doesn't, it doesn't. So, but we are open to very unique situations, especially stuck type spots. They can't show it. They don't want anyone inside. They have a tenant that's not paying. All those kind of things, we can buy it. We're okay with that. We're used to unique situations, and that's fine.
Well, and I think that we're gonna, I'm hoping, right, that things stay more stable, but as people are more in need, I feel like you're gonna have an opportunity to see some of these properties that are not ideal to sell sometimes to another homeowner. They may not wanna come in and completely gut just even the hoarder type stuff that may be in some homes that you run into. So sometimes people, when they get into financial situations and are not in a position to sell in the market, they are looking for somebody like a Carl, an investor who's out there who isn't going to judge the situation. They're going to come in and they're going to actually give them some relief in times like this. So awesome. That's fantastic.
I probably failed to mention also probably the most positive part of it. So if you're an agent and you bring us a deal, here's the house, would you like to write an offer on this? We write an offer, you represent us on that buy. If we're remodeling and selling it, then you can also represent us on the sell of the house, and we're not going to discount you. We'll give you a full 6% commission. So you represent us on the buy, I'm assuming anyway, you would make 3% on that transaction. And then as soon as that, while we're remodeling it during that month, try to pre-sell the thing, do a coming soon, etc. You're going to have a remodel product and then sell it. That maybe you could double in that last one as well, and get, 9, get the 6%. And of course, now you're on the higher retail price, because now we've remodeled it and hopefully we're hitting the top of the market. So that's a way that you can maximize it. You can get kind of a bad situation where I don't even know what to do with this deal. It's maybe a frustrating transaction. You turn it into one of your, per transaction, probably your best deal of the year.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Carl. And Mr. Matt Garnes, how are you this morning?
Fantastic. How are you?
Good, good. Thank you for joining us today. I wanted to give you an opportunity to introduce yourself and give us a little background on how long you've been in the business, and if you have any special niche that you do in lending. Today we're going to talk a little bit about rentals, but I feel like you're probably well-rounded if you've been in the business for a minute, but let us know a little bit about yourself.
So yes, I'm Matt Garnes, like she said. I'm with Nova Home Loans. I'm the senior loan officer for the Garnes team, so I have a team under me. I've been in the business. This is my 20th year in the business, so been through a lot, seen a lot, went through 08, 09, like maybe some of you out there have. And I don't really have a niche. I do all sorts of residential purchase, refinance transactions, FHA, VA, conventional, investment properties, condos, you name it. So there's not too much we can't do here.
Fantastic. Well, while I have you, if you don't mind, I'd love to dig in a little bit into what is happening in lending today. Has there been, the last time we did our real estate investment forum was about 2 weeks ago. Any breaking news in these 2 weeks?
I wouldn't say really breaking news. I mean, June was kind of a breakout month for the late buying season this year. You know, normally March kind of starts the buying season, and that's when we all kind of went into quarantine, was that. So March, April, and May, you know, purchases pretty much dropped off. I'm sure any agents out there can confirm it got really dry out there for purchase business. And, you know, my book of business was like 80-90% refi when it should be 80-90% purchase. So we went into June and got into phase 2, and that kind of, you know, we had a lot of those pent up buyers getting back on the market, getting back to work, and things really got busy on the purchase side. So, but the last 2 weeks, not a lot has happened. I mean, you know, rates have been pretty flat. They've been very, very low. I mean, we're down now to where if you're an A+ borrower, you know, you've got that great credit score, some money down. I'm locking people, conventional borrowers, at 2.75 on a 30-year fixed in some cases. So it's just fantastic for rates. I know we have those low inventories out there, but if you're a buyer and you are able to get into a property, these are the lowest rates that I've ever seen in 20 years.
That sounds absolutely amazing. 2.75 for a purchase. So on that, give us a little scenario. What does that require from a homeowner? What kind of score, credit score, that kind of thing? What kind of down?
Yeah, that's typically your 740, 760 plus borrower, 20% down, single family residence within conforming loan limits.
That's great. Okay. And then how does that apply? That's just an initial purchase, like a owner occupied purchase. So what are you guys doing on refis right now? What are your rates on that? Are about the same? Same
thing. I mean, you know, because a lot of people have equity in their properties right now. So a lot of people that come to us that are refinancing have 10, 20, 30% equity in the property. So, you know, it makes it easy. You have that good credit score, have that equity in the property, and we're able to get you that rate. Now, if you're a VA or government or VA or FHA government loan with a buy down, we're locking people in at 2.25. So I mean, it's just amazing. I've never, you know, I had so many people for so long saying, call me when rates get in the 2s. I'm like, yeah, right, I'll call you. And yeah, now, you know, now we're there, and, you know, so I'm kind of a market geek. And if you know anything about treasury, you know, bonds and yields, the 10-year yield has kind of been fighting a floor of 0.60%. And it's kind of been bouncing on that floor for a couple of weeks, but that's kind of that line in the sand. If we ever break through that, rates could possibly go lower.
Wow, look at you. You read my mind. That was my next.
Fritzi, you're on mute. Sorry.
Fritzi, you hit the mute button. Look at your space bar.
Gotcha. Yeah, the space bar was supposed to unmute me,
go back
actually.
to your last 2 sentences. We'd love to hear it.
Perfect. The question I am getting quite often is, this is an election year. So just like you're saying, if we break through that, and most people feel like we're going to, I mean, and like you, I never would have imagined we'd be in 2%, right? So you think there's a possibility that we're going to get there by the end of the year? I know that, you know, this isn't a perfect science, but what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that is absolutely possible. You know, like I said, these last 2 days, we've dipped under that 0.60. We hit 0.59 yesterday, 0.58 this morning, but then it goes right back up above. So it's trying to break through. And now obviously there's a lot of factors. The COVID scare, you know, businesses shutting down, but the market doesn't seem to really be too frightened about what's going on. I mean, you look at the Dow and it's still up. People are making money in the market. But yeah, it is totally possible. And yes, we do have a presidential election coming up. I think it's 100 days away now, if I'm not mistaken. But that could have a factor. I know the market prefers one type of candidate over the other. So, you know, we'll see what happens. But yeah, you know, rates going lower are totally possible. We could see it any day now.
Beautiful. Well, thank you for that. So we're going to dig into our subject for today. And so we're going to get back with you. I know we have some questions about the rental market. So Carl, if we could get started, I know we were going to go over some examples today. So I think that there's going to be a lot of folks that are probably not in a position to keep possible rental properties. So there's opportunity for other folks. So how do we teach folks how to get into the rental world, some of the positives, some of the negatives, and, you know, show what you're good at here. I mean, you're good at a lot of stuff, but this rental world, you're kind of doing extremely well in it, especially right now. And I don't see that changing for a little bit with the system you got going. So can you share a little bit of that with us?
Yeah. So at the end of the day, so far this year, I bought 47 rentals. And so we can talk about why I'd buy or what I would do different. You know, there's just different strategy to each of the rental properties that I've got, but keep in mind that you got to start somewhere. And if you can get one, so it kind of comes down to you can have income today and you continue to work on that income. But in the real estate industry, not a lot of us have big 401ks that we can sit and retire on. So if you're in real estate, your retirement, generally speaking, is going to be what you're good at. I mean, you can throw money at Tesla and different stocks and say, you know, and read articles about it, but it's not what you're good at. If you're in real estate, you need to invest in rentals. It's the way to go. Now, the first objections are always, I've seen what people do to rentals. I would never own that. And at the end of the day, the horror story, the 1 in 100 story shouldn't stop you. That doesn't need to be the roadblock. You've got to get past that. And don't take advice from people that did rentals in the 80s and 90s. There are so many people that read Carlton sheet books from the 80s and they read these audio cassette tapes and then they start reverberating things to me. It's like technology's changed all of it. And so it's so different now than it was even 10, 15 years ago. So the new rentals are totally different than your parents telling you about rental, why you shouldn't be in rentals from the 80s. Okay. So I bring that up because honestly, people have these phobias of rentals, and it's usually given from someone that prior to technology, prior to the internet, so to speak. And they're trying to get a lot of that advice and they're trying to push you away from it. You know, real estate, I'm assuming you're in the real estate industry. Therefore, this is your easiest way to invest. If you were in the tech sector, you'd probably be great at investing in tech stocks. Okay, but you know real estate. Let's invest in the things that we know. So I'll go over we're going to go over some examples of rental property specifics, but just the first part, it's income now versus income in the future, right? And the income in the future can be much larger. That's why we want to put the rental out there. There will be opportunities. I'm telling you, there are opportunities today to buy rentals. I know that sounds crazy because you're going to say that there's so much demand in the market. Are you crazy? I'd overpay if I bought right now. But if you bought today, if you had bought 5 years ago, okay, in 2015, if you had bought a property in 2015, you probably would have had that argument then in 2015. And I shouldn't buy now, and I just need to focus on the today. I don't need to worry about the future. But that income, a home that was renting for $1,000 a month in 2015, right now is renting for $1,400, $1,500. You see where I'm going with this? It was tight then, but now that person that owns that rental is like, oh, I've got equity, I've got great income. This has gone from a good deal or a scary deal to a phenomenal deal. Now I'm brilliant. And it's going to be a similar thing in the future. So in 2025, sounds way out there, likely rent is going to be $200-$300 more a month than it is right now. And you're going to have a little more income. You might have some ups and downs a little bit in the market, but overall, you're going to be a little higher. Your income is going to be a little more, and it's going to be a phenomenal deal in the future. So But the number one reason you build a rental portfolio and you start with one and you get to the second and the third is that's how you build wealth. I'm telling you, and most people know, you can save a little pile in your savings account, but at the end of the day, you really want to build wealth. You need something compounding and that's building on its own, separate from your daily labors. And so that's what that rental pool does. I want to use a couple of examples. So I just took down a rental in Las Vegas, and I want to share it with you, and I want to share the why, like the components of why I chose to take this property down. So, well, first, one rule we're in a up market. We're in a great market. I used to be a real estate appraiser for 12 years, and then I bought I did consulting for some of the hedge funds as well. And then now I've been doing this, and I've been buying properties, etc. And so, number one rule in a what could be an up and down market coming up in the future, maybe winter 2021, etc., is that condos and townhomes go down first, and they're the last to come up. Okay, just ought to make that clear. Now, having said that, I bought a townhome, and the deal was good enough that I decided I could weather any storm that could come my way. So I had an opportunity. It's 2050 Los Feliz. They have unit numbers, but they're townhome style instead of condo. This is Sunrise Mountain. This is like Hollywood and Lake Mead. It's actually a really good little neighborhood. They're brick on the outside. It kind of looks like a retirement home when you drive in. Everything's like mauve and green, and but they're nice. They're clean. There's a lot of brick, and it's a very, very, very clean townhome complex. I've got a $200 a month HOA. Thank goodness they don't have like a pool. You know, it sometimes can blow it away. It's a little less, but it's about $200. And so I was able to, so this is a gal that called, and she ended up, the reason I bought it is she had to work for the military and had to move to Houston, and like overnight, like I've got to be there tomorrow, that kind of a thing. So someone actually called me with that referral and said, we need to get an offer on this, and we need to get an offer on it quick. She's in a real hurry. Can you close it in like 7 to 10 days? So we did, and we got it out. I bought it for $102,000, and they were selling for $125,000, $130,000, but she'd had dogs, and so all the flooring had to go. Okay, it is all the flooring. There was like a laminate and carpet pad, etc. And there just were enough items that you weren't really going to get that 130 on the MLS, 140. And if it was very, very clean, it would have gone for close to 150,000. And if it was retail, like a new kitchen, and I decked it out and made it beautiful, I get it up to about 165. Okay, so bought it for 100,000, and then if I sit on this, so right now, I buy it. I'm going to buy it on a hard money loan, okay? Which all of you can get a hard money loan. There's no one in here that likely can't. You could buy it on a hard money loan, and then you're going to have 1 year on that hard money loan. This is at least my strategy. There's other ways to do this. Now I buy it, I remodel it, and then instead of selling it, I'm going to refinance it, and that's kind of where Matt comes in. So I can refinance it. When I go to refinance it, then I'm going to use the equity instead of the down payment on it. So, and that just allows me to use the equity, that extra equity that I've got sitting in there. So in your scenario, you're going to think of the same thing. I want to buy something at enough of a discount to where I've got some equity, and that equity, instead of saying I need 10 or 20 or 30% down, you're going to use some of that equity, and then you only have a little bit of down payment or a limited amount of down payment. So now I own it, and now I'm doing a refinance. I'm switching from a down payment to a equity position. Now they're doing an appraisal, and they'll say we'll loan up to X amount. So maybe they say we'll loan 75% of appraisal. So appraisal comes in. I'm not going to get the 165, by the way, because I'm not going to push it like I'm not going to go deck it out. I want to just do new flooring. And to be honest, I already have the quote. Majestic Flooring is doing the full takeout. It's a local vendor, right? I don't own Majestic Flooring. So a local vendor there, Majestics, can come in, and their total cost on that 1,200 square foot unit is, so in and out on it there with the demo and everything is $2,700. So that's all I'm going to be out, and it's rent ready. It actually was painted nicely. And then I'm going to have to throw in a different fridge. There's a few other little minimal expenses. So I buy it, hard money, did the entire purchase for me. And then I'm able to do that refinance. And if that appraises for $150,000, I don't have to bring any money to the table, and I own that rental. So, and that can be done again and again and again and again. And eventually you can refi, and if you needed equity out, you could do it. But so I'd have about $300 a month in positive cash flow. Very little went down. The closing costs and about 35, we'll round it up to $5,000 in repairs. So under $10,000, and I own that long-term rental with $50,000 in equity. And then let's look at it future, like 5 years from now. So 5 years from now, I've got something that's a nice product, but let's say that I only go up to about $175,000. Again, rental condition, I haven't remodeled it, right? So rental condition, maybe I'm worth about 75. So now my equity grew from 50,000 to 75,000. My income grew from about $300 net a month, which isn't, people are thinking that's a lot of work for $300, but times that by 10 and you're starting to get somewhere. And at $300 a month, what if my income is going to go up to $600 a month? Now guys, there's a couple waves that are coming our way. One of these big waves is inflation. Inflation is nothing today. It's minimal, and the feds aren't even worried about inflation. Let me tell you about a couple legislative things that will likely change it. And I'm not saying these are good or bad. I'm not trying to be political in any way. I'm saying that they're very, very, very likely to happen in 4 years to 8 years, okay? And that is that we're gonna do a minimum wage across the United States of probably $15 an hour, okay? When we do that, that means that it won't be 15 overnight. It'll be 10, then 12.50, then 13.50, then 15. It'll get its way up. When it goes to 15, the research says, and I'm not trying to be political. Again, I'm reading these as articles from economists. Economists say that rent is going to go right along with wage. Rent and wage, as wages increase, rents increase along with it. So it's very likely that unit that rents for $1,200 today, it could be renting in 5 years for about $1,500, and with some significant increases, I could even be to $1,700. I could go up a heavy amount. And I want to own fixed assets, rental properties, because it went from making a little bit of income to making a good amount of income. And it also protected me, because when I go to buy a car, it's going to be expensive. If I go buy food, it's going to be expensive. If all my expenses and things go up, and this protects me personally against inflation. And if I'm wrong, or these economists are wrong, and that's out, it's going to happen. It's just, it might not happen in 2 years. It might be 5, it might be 7, but it's happening. Okay. As wages increase, those rents and things are going to increase. So that's property number one. That kind of shows a Vegas. Anyone in the chat can jump on and ask specific questions. I want to share a couple other properties. There's a screen above me. I'm sorry, because I'm on a laptop. There's a screen directly above the laptop. So if you see my eyes drift up.
We did get one question, and from one of our viewers who is 18 and just starting out. So they don't have a ton of money, but they kind of want to know where to start. Is there some guidance here?
Yeah, so my opinion at 18 is I would get a partner. Mom, dad, uncle, sister, aunt, I would get a partner. I would go get a business partner, and you do the hustle. There's a lot of people they've got money sitting on the sidelines that are making them, we talk about how low interest rates are. It's sitting in the bank. It's making less than 0.25%. It's just worthless to leave it in a bank. And so you're going to come up with a solution. Let's set a goal to buy 5 rental properties by the end of 2021. Okay. And property number 1, I'm going to try to have a goal to identify within the next 2 weeks, or within the next 2 months. And you're going to start writing 10, 15 offers to get that. And you might have to write 30 offers to get your property, because you're going to want to buy in the right formula. Okay. We'll have to talk more on the formulas, but I've got some Excel sheets or Google Doc type things that break it down and say, this is a good buy, this is not a good buy. But I want something that can not break even. I want something that can cash flow about $300 a month after taxes, insurance, if there is an HOA, any maintenance that needs to go into the property, and management. I use professional management all the way through. So that, as long as I can get to that, then I'm okay. And I'm safe, and I kind of punt. So I would get a business partner. And that really applies to everyone. I mean, you can be 60 and say, I need a business partner. It's not a big deal. Yeah, you're giving up half or you're giving up whatever percentage of the equity and the income. However, you're in the game and you're at least moving along in the right direction. So, all right. So sometimes you're after appreciation, sometimes you're after income. These are two more deals. I'm just going to analyze these ones. I'll analyze a little bit quicker. This property I bought in Tampa, Florida. And I know that people are like, why in the world would I want to be on the, 3 time zones away? And why would I want to be in another market? Tampa's just a hot market like Vegas. But in Tampa, so in Las Vegas, let's say that I go to Silverado Ranch. Okay, everyone know that area, 89123-183. And I go into Silverado Ranch and I buy a house for $250,000, single story, 1,400 square feet. Built, whatever, built in 2000, 2001, so when that area is built. If I buy that for $250,000, it will rent right now for about $1,300 a month. Remember, it cost to get my $1,300 a month. It cost me $100,000 or $240,000 in purchase price to be able to get to that. This is why I'm going to sell Tampa. Okay, this is in a very clean, good area in Tampa. The address is 5015 East 28th Avenue in Tampa, Florida. Okay, I purchased the home at $115,000. So remember, a lot less, right, than we were about to do. I had to put less than $5,000 into the property. It was in pretty good condition, but the appliances weren't very good. So we switched appliances out and we repainted like 4 rooms other than that, and yard cleanup, very simple stuff. It's worth $120,000, or I apologize. I'm all in $120,000. It's worth $160,000. So I have 25% equity. When I go to refinance, that equity is going to be very important because that equity is kind of like my down payment. And it is currently, I brought it to a property management company, and the property management company just signed a lease on it for $1,350 a month. Do you see the income difference between a Las Vegas deal and a Tampa deal? That's the difference. And so it's the other side of the country, and that can be very intimidating. You need to invest with a partner or someone that knows an area like that. But on the same note, I just wanted to see why I would buy in a market area like that. And when it comes to appreciation, it has higher upside than the Las Vegas market because Tampa is just a hot market. So Tampa's in Florida, for those of you that don't. There's a couple people like, wait, what? That'll kind of give you the idea. And so those are some of the rentals that I'm buying there. Buying right now in Kansas City, in the Tampa, Orlando market, and in Las Vegas on my rentals. Let's talk how to refi. So there's lots of ways to buy it hard money. And you could just go into a purchase and do a traditional down payment. The hard money has usually less down payment requirements. It's a little bit more expensive, but it's a little easier to get in and get the money than doing a full traditional loan. And it usually can be done really fast because a lot of times they'll say, okay, I'll sell to you as a discount, but you got to close it in 2 weeks. Hard money can do that. In a traditional loan, that's a little harder to do. But the traditional loan saves you a ton of money. So you need to do it in the long run. It just isn't always your initial. And it might be, but just in this approach that I'm taking, it's not my initial way of doing it. And so again, I buy it at this example on Los Feliz. I buy it at $102,500. In this case, my lender came in with the full amount. I'm able to 100% finance it. Most lenders are going to, on hard money, are going to want 10, 15, 20%, depending on your experience level down. Okay, and you can get that back when you refinance, by the way. Then I'm gonna make that purchase. I'm gonna do the updating to the inside, and I'm gonna get it rented out. You're gonna rent it yourself, or you're gonna use a property manager. I recommend the property manager. Overall, I think you save money on a property manager. You think you might save 8% or 10%. I think it costs you that and then some doing it that way. I actually think you'll lose money if you don't use a property manager. Then once we get to the property manager stage and it's rented out, now I own it for, let's say, 60 to 90 days. So Matt, if I own this house, just the single home, we're not talking big bulk or anything. So I own something that's, I'm in it. Let's round math. I'm in at $100,000, and I can get an appraisal at 150. How can I refinance that? What would a refinance look like? Matt, you're on mute. Go real quick, hit the mute.
Okay.
There you go.
Gotcha. So yeah, I mean, it's the same process as any other refinance. We have to pull back on some things as far as investment, especially cash out. You know, we are going to be capped at 75% loan to value on a cash out, depending on property type, loan amount, you know, things like that. But other than that, it's the same process. You know, we're going to check credit scores. We're going to check income, assets. We will need 6 months reserves, not only on the investment property that we're refinancing, but your other ones, if you own other properties as well, we'll need 2 to 6 months reserves on those also. So you have to be a little more put together to be able to cash out on a investment property as opposed to, you know, owner occupied.
How would it work if I said, so in that other example where someone said, hey, I'm 18, I need to do this. Anyone could be in that scenario, not to be 18. Let's say that they say, look, I mean, I've got $5,000, $10,000 in the bank, but I'm too nervous to do this on my own. So I'm going to take on a partner. My partner has $150,000 in the bank and good credit as well. So we both went on the LLC together to own it, or maybe we even both owned it, joint tenants, rights of survivorship. Is that okay to add that other person to help you qualify?
Yeah, sure. I mean, we can have 2, 3, 4 borrowers on a loan. The thing is, if you're the weak link as far as credit scoring, then, you know, everything as far as interest rate is based off that lower credit score. So it may not be beneficial to put the 18-year-old on there if they don't have credit score, credit history, things like that. You know, you can put anyone on the title, but you know, it's just a matter of looking at the situation. Everyone's different, and figuring out what's the best scenario for you, especially investment properties. I mean, you really want to have those good credit scores, good credit history, money in the bank, things like that. But yeah, if someone lacks money or lacks that experience, we can bring them to the table to add that, especially if someone's younger.
So if I buy, the traditional route that I would recommend that makes sense as an investor, but doesn't always make sense on the lending side, is I would say someone came to me and they were sitting at my desk, obviously 6 feet apart with masks, but they were, whatever, we're on the phone, we're Zooming. And so they come to me and they say, I want to do this. I would say, okay, create an LLC, and you and we'll call them your angel funder. So you and your partner go on an LLC, you own it 50-50, whatever your agreement is with them, and you buy it in that entity. And then that agreement is on your operating agreement, which, you know, should cost you under $500 to get done with it, or around that to get done with a realtor, or I'm sorry, an attorney to set up that LLC. Can you do the financing in the LLC, or do you need it to be in their personal names? What's easier? What's the difference?
Yeah, as far as any conventional Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac loan, we have to close it in the individual's name. We cannot close it in the LLC.
Okay. So what you could do is you could own it in the two people's name, and then after you are done with the refi, so you've done a hard money loan, you've now you're refinancing out. And we use the equity, that 25% equity, we use that as their down payment, so to speak. If for easy math, we bought it 100, remember it's 102.5. I know I'm rounding for easy math, right? So it's 100,000 purchase. They'll loan 75,000. I chose this one because the math was so easy. So they'll loan, let's say, $75,000 on, or I apologize, they'll loan on appraisal. So 150,000, they'll loan roughly 105. Maybe it's only they'll loan 105 if it's 70. You know, if they require 30%. And so now you were able to do it, and the only thing you ate, so to speak, was the repairs and the closing costs. Now, and then you did it in your personal names, the hard money loan. Then you went into the refi. Matt sets you up on the refi. You refinance the property. Now you're on a 30-year, and the rates aren't going to be around 2 for an investor, likely. You know what I mean? It's going to be a little higher, but that's all right. By the way, at the end, it's going to make an $8 difference. It's not going to be a huge, you know, $20 difference. It's not gonna make a big enough difference. And then, so now you're fixed, which is great. You're fixed for 30 years. Imagine that. I mean, you know, rates are only gonna go up eventually. They can't stay here forever. And then you go and do an LLC right after to protect yourself. Am I good on that? I mean, any concerns on throwing an LLC after the loan?
No, I mean, yeah, we just can't close in the entity's name.
Okay. So today, in this scenario, you've got about $300 a month. It may seem like, is this worth it? 150 for me net, not gross, but net, and 150 for my partner. The partner might be like, yeah, okay, we could do this, but look, very, very little money out of your pocket. And I'm in a scenario that's what it is today. In 5 years, I'm going to grow this up to about $75,000 in equity that you own half and the investor owns half. And that little 300 is likely going to increase $300 at least. Now it's 600, you're each getting 300. But remember, your goal is to go get 5. So if you go get 5, you see where I'm going with this. Now you're up to about $1,500 a month. But if you go get 5 in this same scenario, that's 5 times 75,000. In other words, you just built wealth. You just created wealth. Some people, to get to that number, have to have a 401k for 20, 30, 40 years before they build that kind of cash and equity up in a 401k. And you just were able to create it in a 5-year period doing what you know best, what you're good at. So I just feel that if real estate's what you know, then this is what you do. So now you just need to write your offers thinking, what appraise for, not what purchase price isn't the most relevant thing. What will it appraise for once I have it rented out and cleaned up? We call that the as repaired value, the ARV. So maybe you're buying it here, but it's not based on where you're buying it. It's based on this. This is the appraisal, and they're going to loan between 70 and 75% of this appraisal number. So it'll come in here. Be a little flexibility. It's possible that appraisal comes in and you have to bring to the table $6,000 to close this deal because you were off a little bit on the appraisal. But it's better than bringing in 30,000, right? I mean, if it was a $100,000 purchase and you were about to bring in 30%, see where I'm going with that? It was $30,000, and now you were able to do it for $6,000. And in order to get that kind of a deal, you might need to write 10 to 15, 20, 30 offers. But I just bought one last week, same scenario, right off the MLS. And I know I bought a lot of my stuff off, not on the MLS, like direct from a seller. But the truth is, those deals exist because you know the MLS best. So those deals exist today, right now. It's just getting the right partnership or being ready to do it on your own, and then being willing to step forward and do it. It works. It works. All right, Fritzi, that's my rant. I have other stuff. We can talk other times on it, but I mean, that's kind of the scenario.
Well, that's a wealth of information. Thank you very much. Everybody should be creating wealth. And I strongly feel that if we're in real estate, I mean, this is what we know, and this is what we should be investing in. And it is probably the best place to make money. At a much faster pace, especially with the way our market is right now, so I know you have been diverse in the states that you're actually investing in. So what are all the states that you have invested in and are investing in, and maybe what changes happened that brought you out of markets and what took you to markets?
So the best cash flow in the United States right now for me, from what I've seen, is Kansas City, Kansas City, Missouri. So Kansas City is on the Kansas-Missouri border, although about 80%, 70% of it's on the Missouri side. So most of your deals are in Missouri. So that's a great cash flow. I can buy something for $80,000 or $60,000 in that area. It's not a terrible house, by the way. So you're thinking some boarded up, all the pictures you've seen of Detroit or something. It's not that way. And I can rent that home. So I'm into it 60, we'll say, and I probably put a few dollars into it, and I can rent it for $900, $1,100, $1,300, depends on how much money I had to put into it, the area, etc. And so that's a great rental area for cash flow, but the appreciation is not phenomenal. Okay, it's going to keep up with inflation. It's a decent, but Florida is all about the future gains because more people are moving to Florida than Vegas. Percentage wise, we're not, although we're also one of the top markets. The Orlando market, the Tampa market, those metro areas are just growing so much more rapidly than we are. That probably wasn't the correct term, but anyway, they're growing pretty rapid, and so that's why you want, that's why you want that area. So, and those are the two areas. Those are the three areas, I guess I should say, that I'm buying the most rentals in. However, having said that, I bought, you name it. I own some rentals in Nashville, Tennessee. I have bought a lot all over the West Coast, all the way up and down the West Coast, good amount in Nevada. But those are the areas for rentals that make the most sense, is the South and the Midwest. Okay. Although Nevada is where we live, and so that it can be done in Nevada.
So we did have one more question from the same participant. As far as having a license, is a license required? I think in this scenario, because we are talking about looking for properties on the MLS, which is a resource to real estate agents, then a license would be required in this particular scenario.
So yeah, so you don't, to be a real estate investor, you do not need a license. You don't need to be a realtor. So you don't need a license there. However, to be to buy on the MLS, you either need to hire a realtor or be a realtor. So you, or maybe you partner with the realtor and that gives you the expertise. I mean, it's nice to have someone who knows how to comp a property. It's nice to know someone who knows how contracts work and can help you build this formula or theory on it.
Beautiful. Okay. So that's a lot of information today. I am Game Room on our chat over here likes the get a partner, do the hustle. So she's ready to go on the hustle, which is fantastic. Please let us know how we can help you. That's what we're here for. We obviously try to target each part of our industry and get you guys as much information as possible and teach you guys some things that maybe you didn't know before. So hopefully you got some value from this today and you can take at least one nugget with you. And we do air this again on Facebook and some of our social media sites. I did put Carl's at BlackRock Flips on there, and I will be emailing out some of the links to the other social media accounts that we have for all of the participants today. I want to thank everybody for joining us. I want to do one more check on questions if anybody has any other questions. Otherwise, I do want to let you know that our next class, we have the schedule out on Eventbrite for the entire year. So we're doing it about 2 times a month right now. Unless something changes, we could go back to a live presentation in the future. For now, we will continue our virtual meetings. So our next presentation is August 5th and August 19th. If you check on the Eventbrite link, we actually have all of the classes for the rest of the year. And we always try to stay consistent with, talking a little bit about our real estate market, talking some financing and talking some investment opportunities, and then clearly touching base on what's happening in the world today and how Nevada is reacting to this pandemic that is affecting all of us. So we try to keep you abreast of that as well and whatever changes are happening in that. So we want to be your resource. If there's anything that you would like to talk about in the future, or you want us to touch on, or something we didn't answer today, please feel free to, everyone should have my email as I sent out the Zoom invite. So please feel free to email me. I also put Carl's information on there, and I will be sending an email out. I'll get Matt's information out to everybody as well. If you guys have any questions in the future, we're here to help by email as well. So thank you for joining us today. We appreciate you, Carl. Fantastic information. People pay a lot of money for information like that, and you're offering it up and giving your knowledge just to share it. So I think that is beautiful, and this is why you do so well. You give back to folks in our community and are teaching them things, and I appreciate that, and I know they do as well. Thank you for being here today, and thank you for joining me on this path. And Matt, thank you for jumping in today. We appreciate it, and good luck with everything. I know you're super busy out there. It's like a wonderful thing and a terrible thing, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, so anyway, keep doing a great job. Thank you for being with us today. We hope to see you again in the future. And we'll see you guys on August 5th. Thank you. Have a good day.
Thanks.
Thank you.